Picture this. A hotel maintenance worker climbs to the rooftop of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, February 19, 2013. He is there to check the water pressure. Guests had been complaining about low water flow for days. He opens the hatch on tank number 4. She had been in there for 19 days. The LAPD closed the case 4 months later. A tragic accident, severe clinical distress. Case closed. But here is what they never told you. The coroner's own report, still publicly accessible today, contains 3 data points that seriously challenge that conclusion. Not theories, not Reddit speculation, data in the official record, in plain sight. Tonight, we go through all 3.
Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.
Let's start with what was on her nightstand. 4 prescription bottles, all of them partially full, all of them dated within the month. Her heavy prescription medications. Now look at the coroner's report, the actual Los Angeles County document, still accessible through the county records portal today. When they analyzed her blood, some of those medications were present. Others were at sub-therapeutic levels, meaning the concentrations were too low to have meaningful clinical effect. She appeared to have stopped taking her medication. Her blood suggested it. Forensic pharmacology specialists call this a chemical signature, the measurable trace of interrupted treatment. Published clinical literature on abrupt discontinuation of this specific drug combination, quetiapine and lamotrigine, documents effects including dissociation and disorientation. This is not speculation. It is in the pharmacological record. But here is what turns this into the first data point. Not just a medical fact. The stomach contents. Almost no food and no undissolved pill residue from her prescribed morning dose. The bottles were on the nightstand. The pills were not in her system. That last morning she appears not to have taken her medication, and according to guest accounts cited in the Netflix documentary, staff had already noticed behavioral changes 2 days before she vanished. California law, specifically the duty of care standard, established under premises liability case law, including decisions cited in California Civil Jury Instructions, Section 1001, requires hotel operators to take reasonable action when a guest shows visible signs of medical distress. The Cecil Hotel has not provided public documentation of any intervention in those 48 hours. No protocol, no record, no response. If you were on the jury in the 2013 civil suit, and you had seen these 3 data points, would you have settled, or would you have taken this to trial? Now let's talk about the hatch. The 4 water tanks on the Cecil's roof were 8 feet tall. To access them, you climb a fixed exterior ladder, reach the top, and open a heavy hinged lid. The tank dimensions and access structure are confirmed in Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety records, referenced in the 2013 civil suit filings. Initial reports stated the hatch was closed when Elisa was found. Think about the physics of that. A person climbs a ladder in the dark, opens a heavy lid, enters the tank. The water is high, and somehow the lid closes behind them. For that to happen without outside help, 2 things would need to be true. Either the hatch had a spring-loaded auto-close mechanism, which the building records confirm it did not, or the wind that night was strong enough to push the lid closed on its own. This blatant contradiction is exactly why the internet exploded. For years, the public was led to believe that the hatch had been closed, based on the LAPD's early statements. But years later, court records revealed a very different story. In a signed affidavit, the maintenance worker who found her testified that the hatch was already open when he arrived. The official NOAA Weather Service data for downtown Los Angeles on the night of January 31st, 2013, still publicly available through the NOAA Climate Data online portal, recorded wind speeds below 4 miles per hour, near calm. And then there is the footage. The 54-second timestamp gap in the elevator's CCTV. LAPD cited routine recording lag. What has been noted by people who have analyzed the publicly released clip is that the compression pattern in that gap does not match what you would expect from a standard recording buffer error. This has not been independently verified by a credentialed forensic lab, but it has also never been officially addressed with technical documentation by the LAPD. A shifted narrative, near zero wind, a footage gap that was never fully explained. 3 data points, 1 shifting answer. Case closed. Before we get to the ownership structure, I need to show you one sentence from the city inspection record. Because once you hear it, the rest of this chapter hits completely differently. The rooftop access point, including the water tank hatches, was listed as inspected, no hazard noted, every year, for a decade. By 2013, the Cecil Hotel had been rebranded as Stay on Main, a deliberate marketing pivot to international budget travelers on platforms like Hostelworld and Booking.com. What the listings didn't mention was what Los Angeles City inspection records had been noting for years. The rooftop, including the water tank access points, had not been subject to a comprehensive safety review in the years preceding Elisa's death. The rooftop was technically off limits to guests, but according to testimony from other guests cited in news reports, it was informally accessible via a stairwell that staff rarely monitored. Technically closed, practically open. In the 2013 civil suit, the hotel's defense was a single word: unforeseeable. They argued that because Elisa's death was unforeseeable, they carried no legal duty to prevent it. Unforeseeable. In a building with archived Los Angeles Times records, documenting more than a dozen unexplained deaths and violent incidents across its operating history. A building that lobbied against proposed city legislation requiring hotels to retain CCTV footage for 30 days, according to public lobbying disclosures. The lawsuit never reached a jury. A Los Angeles judge dismissed the case, ruling that the hotel could not have foreseen or prevented the tragedy. Legally, the case was over, but the questions remained. There is one thread in this case that almost never appears in the mainstream coverage. Not a person, a structure. According to Los Angeles County Assessor records, publicly searchable right now, the Cecil Hotel property changed ownership hands multiple times between 2000 and 2013, each time through a limited liability holding structure. Each transfer further complicated the accountability timeline. Attorneys who have commented publicly on the case note that by the time Elisa died, tracing the full chain of duty of care responsibility had become, in one legal analyst's own words, extraordinarily difficult by design. That phrase came from a public legal commentary, not a conspiracy forum, a published professional analysis. Then consider what happened after. In 2021, the property was acquired again, and full renovation plans were filed. The renovation revealed something local preservation groups had been noting for years. The water system, including the rooftop tank infrastructure, had not been meaningfully updated since the 1970s. 40 years, annual city inspections, and the rooftop water access was never flagged as an unsecured guest risk. The 2021 permit filings are still publicly accessible through the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety website. As of this recording, 47 separate filings since acquisition. Not one addresses the historical safety compliance gap. The record is live, right now. You can check it tonight. In 2012, Elisa Lam wrote in her blog,
I want to see everything.
She did, just not in the way she planned. She was not a ghost. She was 21 years old. She came to Los Angeles alone because she wanted to prove something to herself. And on the night she disappeared, someone at that hotel may have seen her, and no one stepped in. The 54-second gap was never fully explained. The internal files will never be fully unsealed. The water tank has been replaced. But the record is still there. The coroner's report, the weather data, the permit filings, the ownership transfers. Every document we reference tonight, still public, still searchable, still waiting. She deserved a system that kept a record. She deserved staff who intervened. She deserved real accountability, not a dismissed case. She deserved to see everything. If you were the journalist writing the final headline on this case, what would it say? Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.